The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Ethan Carter stood outside the hospital chapel, staring at a folded piece of paper in his trembling hands. The words on it no longer looked real. "We're sorry for your loss." Loss. That single word had shattered everything. Just 12 hours earlier, Ethan had been driving home from work, thinking about the dinner his wife always made on Fridays. He remembered smiling at a text from her. "Don't be late tonight. I have a surprise for you." He never made it home before the police called. A truck had lost control on the highway. 3 cars were crushed. One woman had been rushed unconscious to Mercy General Hospital. By the time Ethan arrived, doctors were already apologizing. His wife, Lily, was gone. At least, that was what he believed. The hospital corridors smelled like antiseptic and grief. Ethan wandered through them like a ghost, unable to breathe properly. Nurses spoke softly around him. Strangers offered condolences. None of it felt real. For 8 years, Lily had been his entire world. She was the kind of person who remembered birthdays of grocery store cashiers, the kind who secretly paid for strangers' meals, the kind who carried granola bars in her purse because someone might need one. And now she was gone. Ethan sat alone in the chapel long after midnight, staring at the stained glass windows while memories crushed him one by one. Their first apartment with broken heating, the dog they rescued together, the tiny nursery they once planned but never used. They had tried for years to have a child. Doctor visits turned into heartbreak. Hope turned into silence. Eventually, they stopped talking about it altogether because the pain hurt too much. But Lily never stopped believing. "She used to tell me," Ethan whispered to himself, "that miracles arrive quietly." A sudden knock interrupted his thoughts. He looked up to see an older nurse standing in the doorway. "Mr. Carter?" Her expression was strange. Not sad exactly, but uncertain. "Yes, there's something you need to know." Ethan's stomach tightened instantly. For one horrifying second, he thought maybe there had been a mistake. Maybe Lily had suffered longer than they told him. Maybe she'd been afraid before the end. The nurse guided him into a private consultation room. A doctor entered moments later holding a file. "Mr. Carter," the doctor began carefully, "your wife was carrying a child." Ethan blinked. "What?" "She was pregnant, approximately 16 weeks. The room spun violently. "No," he whispered. "No, that's not possible." But deep inside, something cracked open. The surprise text, her strange smile all week, the way she kept touching her stomach lately. Lily had known. Tears burst from Ethan before he could stop them. He covered his mouth, overwhelmed by grief and wonder colliding together. "She was going to tell me tonight," he said brokenly. The doctor nodded gently. "There's more." Ethan looked up. The baby survived. Silence. Not ordinary silence, the kind that changes a human being forever. Ethan stared at the doctor as if he'd misheard him. "What did you say?" "Your daughter survived the accident. She's in neonatal intensive care. She came early due to trauma, but she's fighting." Daughter. The word hit Ethan like sunlight breaking through a storm cloud. For the first time since arriving at the hospital, he stood up. The nurse led him through another hallway, then into a dimly lit room filled with machines softly beeping. Ethan's heart pounded harder with every step, and then he saw her. Tiny, fragile, wrapped in wires and blankets. His daughter. He froze beside the incubator, unable to move. She was so small her hand barely curled around his fingertip when he reached inside, but she squeezed him, and in that instant something inside Ethan shattered and healed at the same time. "She has Lily's hands," he whispered through tears. The nurse smiled softly. "And her strength." Ethan stayed there all night talking to the tiny baby girl who had somehow survived unimaginable tragedy. He told her about her mother's laugh, about how Lily danced while cooking, about the way she cried during animal rescue commercials, and for the first time since the accident, Ethan felt something besides pain, purpose. Days passed slowly, the grief didn't disappear. Some mornings Ethan woke up forgetting Lily was gone, only for reality to crush him all over again seconds later. But every day, he returned to the NICU. Every day, his daughter fought harder. The nurses adored her. One called her the little warrior. Another said, "She smiles in her sleep already." Ethan eventually named her Grace, because that's what she felt like. A gift he never expected after losing everything. One afternoon, Ethan found himself sitting beside another father in the NICU waiting area. The man looked exhausted, staring at medical bills scattered across his lap. Without thinking, Ethan sat beside him. "Your child okay?" he asked quietly. The man shook his head. "She needs surgery. Insurance won't cover enough." Days earlier, broken people recognizing broken people. That night, Ethan went home and opened Lily's old journal for the first time. Inside were dozens of handwritten notes, tiny reminders, dreams, prayers. One page stopped him cold. "If we ever become parents, I want our child to grow up seeing kindness, not just hearing about it." Ethan cried harder than he had since the funeral. The next morning, he walked back into the hospital and paid the struggling family's remaining medical balance anonymously. The father never discovered who helped him. But Ethan knew Lily would have done the same. Word spread quietly among hospital staff about the grieving widower helping families in need. Over the next few months, Ethan began organizing donations for parents sleeping in waiting rooms and covering meals for exhausted nurses working overnight shifts. Pain had nearly destroyed him. Instead, it transformed him. And somehow, through unimaginable loss, Lily's love continued reaching people she would never meet. 6 months later, Grace finally came home. Ethan carried her through the front door wrapped in a yellow blanket Lily had bought long before anyone knew she was pregnant. The house still hurt. Photographs still made him stop breathing sometimes. But now there was laughter too. Tiny giggles, midnight cries, little fingers gripping his shirt. One evening, Ethan rocked Grace to sleep while rain tapped softly against the windows. It sounded just like the storm the night everything changed. He looked down at his daughter resting peacefully against his chest. "You know," he whispered, "your mom believed miracles arrive quietly." Grace stirred gently, holding his finger exactly the way she had in the NICU. And suddenly Ethan understood. Miracles weren't always loud celebrations or impossible events. Sometimes they arrived disguised as strength after heartbreak, as strangers helping strangers, as a tiny heartbeat refusing to give up, as love surviving even death. Ethan kissed Grace's forehead and looked toward the sky beyond the rain-covered window. For the first time in a long while he smiled, because Lily hadn't truly left him. Part of her still lived on, in their daughter, in every act of kindness inspired by her memory, and in the hope that carried broken people forward when they thought they had nothing left. And in that quiet little nursery filled with grief, love, and new beginnings, a miracle slept peacefully in his arms.